about someone who Nigerians, or most Nigerians at least on the surface level, has accepted, Peter Obi. So this is the contrast, right? Peter Obi has been known by Nigerians, not on the national level, but at least I'm from Anambra State, so I know Peter. I've known Peter before as long as, before he ran and when he was governor as well. I was in Nigeria then, so I know very well who Peter Obi is. And I'm also one of his biggest critics as well at this little level I'm operating at. But one thing that we cannot say for certain is that on the surface level, at least on social media, at the youth level, most youths or most people on social media, they've accepted Peter Obi. What are your thoughts on Peter Obi?
So guys, before I guys to take a listen to what Sowore replied on that thing that was asked, I would like to get your opinion in the comment section, because this video will even shock you and shock me too, because a lot of things that Sowore said, I don't agree with that. And let me get your views in the comment section, by the way.
There's something that I've also seen as a general strategy to promote Peter Obi is to insert him into every conversation that people like us have, knowing that, but
the reason why
I'll put it this way, you understand? Except somebody who doesn't know numbers, even the acceptability of the Peter Obi you are talking about pales in comparison to Buhari's acceptance when he first ran for office, in which he got 12 million votes against Obasanjo, and I think Obasanjo got 24 at that time, even though we know they made up the numbers. He ran again. That 12 million votes has been a constant or a recurring decimal in figures. And that time there was no social media, but these votes were coming. So he was also seen as the most accepted person at that time, as against those who win elections. So, but like I said, I think the strategy these days is to inject Peter Obi into every conversation so that you can keep the myth that is accepted. But if you look at the numbers, I'm talking about their own numbers now, it doesn't look to me that this assertion is true. You can say that about some young people. You can say that about even some old people. You can say that about certain demographics, Christians, for instance, and some of them,
Christians,
Northern Christians, who, in their response to the Muslim ticket, was looking for somebody, and he fits into their bill. But if you want to have a honest conversation about acceptance, I don't think you are, diving deep enough to get it. But you have excused it by saying this is on the surface.
Yeah, so, social media. And
yes.
Stuff, yeah.
So, but that's
it's not real life.
It's not real.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
In terms of even the outcomes of their own elections.
Yeah.
So that's how I see it. But now that you got him injected into this conversation.
But what do you think of his personality? What do you think of him?
See, I know him as far back as 2007 or thereabout, when he was cheated out of the governorship at first, and he was introduced to me, not in person, but his situation, by a friend of mine I respect a lot, Ken Dibe. He's from Anambra State as well. He's a great writer. And he said, "This is Peter Obi guy." We were all in the US at that time, and he's been cheated. And we went to work. He was, never met him. In fact, I met Peter Obi for the first time with Chinua Achebe.
Wow.
At an Achebe lecture several years later, I think, when he was now already governor. So he came and he was telling Achebe, Ojukwu was there too, and he came back. This was the day I knew that Ojukwu spoke Yoruba fluently, because I interviewed him.
Okay.
And it's still on the internet. And he said to Achebe, "So I'm meeting Sowore for the first time. This guy was the one who made me governor." And Achebe is like, "Yeah, I'm not sure," because Achebe and I were close. His family, myself, before, he died. I mean, I sought Achebe out on my own. He's someone I've always loved, his books and his intellect.
Yeah.
So, and then Peter Obi said, "Can we meet upstairs?" And I said to him, "Please, I'm not doing all this meet upstairs. And my witness was his person at that time, Valentine Obinyam. That was his special advisor on publicity. Very rabid guy like that. So, and a few years later, they came and said, this guy is such a substandard, liar. And we started evaluating Peter Obi's performance and found out that everything you heard in terms of publicity, and that's the way he was packaged this time around, was the opposite. Substandard buildings or things that were never done. They were packaging him.
Mediocrity.
Yes, it was mediocre. We got upset. And we started digging into it. I'm telling you, for the first time, to his governance, and found him to be a fake, as fake as they'd come.
I agree, 100%.
And he got upset. They went and printed posters in Anambra State. I think it was done by, Valentine, accusing me and Okenibe of being gay partners. So that's why I also knew that all the social media rabid attacks, he endorses it.
Yeah.
That's how he operates. But, he'll maintain dignified distance.
Yeah.
And act like, if he sees you, he'll greet you like.
Yeah.
But besides that facade, Peter Obi can lie.
Yeah.
When we were running for election, I noticed something about him. If Peter Obi wants to take a private jet, he will go and enter through commercial place. So I greet everybody, you think, and then they'll bring a vehicle and put him to go to the private jet area. One day we arrived and we came to campaign, and I think we were both in Lagos. We arrived on the same flight. This one was a commercial flight. And he waited for me. Maybe they deliberated at the entrance of the plane. And I greeted him. By that very time, we took pictures. I had not left. I posted the picture of myself, and these people like, Sowore has bowed down for B. But here is the next part. So we entered the vehicle. I saw him entering a vehicle, and I followed. Turns out he was going to the private section where they treat VIPs.
Oh.
And then saw him with a whole coterie of, I said, but you came alone, and they were all there. Apparently, those ones probably flew on a private jet.
Okay.
But he decided to fly commercial. And I now asked the guy who was driving, because we were in a car, a Hilux van. I said, let's wait and see what Peter Obi drive, because I was actually expecting that he was driving, was the Innocent Motors.
Okay.
Peter Obi had nothing less than 10 big Toyota SUVs waiting for him. There was this Mercedes Space Boss. And I was telling myself, why do you have to lie? So why do you have to cover up all this? Nobody's going to be upset with you that you're a presidential candidate if you have a convoy. But look at this trajectory. And that packaging is his style. Yeah. And if you want to get away with finding out, then he'll send his people after you. Yeah. So when you saw that I stood my ground in 2023 against him, I knew him. And he knew that I knew him. But there were guys who were against him in those days who didn't have the courage to come out again because they were afraid of the backlash. And they did a fantastic job of scaring everybody.
Yeah, for some people, it may work for some people. For some others, it only adds the fire to them to keep on speaking out.
So that's like I said, you wanted to hear this. Now you know it.
No, I've always known. The reason why I bring it up is kind of linking back to what we said about before. Like, for me, I always feel why did they choose Obi, at least on the surface level?
Let me explain to you a very succinct explanation. And see, after NSAS, anybody who is a student of politics or history knows that the young people who fought a system they never thought could capitulate, because the system capitulated under NSAS.
It was shaky. Yeah.
They was shaking to its core, and they saw it. They usually go for power. And when that happened, he was presented to them as the new face of the struggle. And it was all packaging, like I said. the elites came and said, look, if we allow one young person or all these young people to go with a person we can't talk to, we are finished. So they had to invest in that. And that was what produced him. And the people that did it know themselves. They were the NSAS connoisseurs. The people who made it through NSAS, who became popular NSAS, they all rallied themselves together. And I was aware when they were planning it. But I said, how can you do this? Because this guy is establishment boy. Those were the first set of people that started attacking us. And I can mention their names. Aisha, we were in a group. Macaroni was there, Deji Adeyanju, Aisha, Faz, Femi Falan. We were in a group after NSAS, and Aisha kept saying, whomever is here, you should go and run for local government to House of Rep. And one day I called her, I said, who's going to be president? She said, I don't care. Just make sure that anybody, we go and take over. So I called our people, I said, look at the game Aisha is playing. They already have a candidate. At that time, I didn't know it was Peter Obi. But they had been working on that ground before that time to present him as a candidate. And they had prepared who was going to be a stumbling block and how they were going to attack everybody and overwhelm everybody so that nobody can oppose their decision. It was a tyranny of a minority.
Yeah.
Even Wole Soyinka confessed to me that he fell for it up to a point. He's like, I was almost endorsing this guy. And then he woke up one day and his name was all over, and he said he was asking, what did I do wrong? What did I do wrong? It turns out they just picked on him for no reason. And he became, even though he didn't participate in the election, he became, the most ridiculed person after the election. That was what got him upset.
Yeah.
And he said, if this is my last assignment on earth, I'm going to let people know who you people are.
Yeah. In an ex-species you did, he talked about OBJ bringing out Peter Obi so that Atiku will not win. Kind of didn't understand what you meant by that. Can you explain what you meant?
I'm a student of history and power.
Yeah.
I have followed meticulously the history of at least 7 presidents in Nigeria, starting from Babangida, followed by Shonekon, who was in power for 84 days before we drove him out, and then followed by Abacha, that's number 3, followed by Abdul Salam, that's number 4, Obasanjo, number 5, Yaradua, number 6, Jonathan, number 7, Buhari, number 8, 9 actually now, with Tinubu. And I hope I become the 10th person, so that I can wipe all of their memories away from you. So what has always happened is that there's a power structure of people who believe they own Nigeria. And they truly do, if you look at how they have succeeded so far. So in the scheme of things, if you ask Obasanjo, who do you hate most between Asiwaju, Tinubu, and Atiku? He hated Atiku most because for him, Atiku was someone who had a dagger, who trusted in his chest but didn't kill him. For him, Atiku was Brutus. And when the opportunity came, they looked at it and said, what is the way these votes come in a way that we can overcome Atiku? That's Obasanjo now. And he decided maybe Obi might have been what we call a Manchurian candidate, a candidate who didn't know that he was being supported. I don't know if he is or not. So and they decided that, look, if the Southeast is left there without a spoiler, there's nobody who can defeat Atiku in Nigeria in this next election. Because they barely survived Atiku during Buhari's second term. And that there's no amount of tinkling we can do. So let's bring in Obi. These young people already think he's a good guy. He's packaged them very well. And he would suck away or suck out the votes that could have gone to Atiku. There's no way anybody in the Southeast was voting for Tinubu. Nobody in the Southeast is voting for a candidate that brought a Muslim ticket in the Southeast or South. In the course of doing it, the Christian minority in the North lashed in on that and voted massively for Obi. Obasanjo's dream came to pass. But look at it, even the arrangement that INEC made, even in allocating the votes, Atiku, who barely campaigned because we were all presidential candidates, in those days, I once asked him, I said, why are you, that's why they say I'm rude. I saw him, I said, why are you still running for office? You could barely move. He looked at me and said, Sowore, just move, get out of my face. Because during the last election, if Atiku moved one leg, he would stop. Like he needed to catch a breath. He looked like, I think I tweeted about it, that he looks like a bag of cement that, had become spoiled. So how Atiku, without much campaign, was able to have 8 million votes? But if you were to add that to half of Obi's votes, Atiku, they would not have been able to explain defeating Atiku in the election. Do Obasanjo hate Atiku? Yes. Now, does he hate Tinubu? He does. Does he hate Atiku more because of their unsettled problem when he was vice president to him? The other part is that the part of Nigeria who's like, we just had 8 years of a northern president. How can we go and vote for another northerner, regardless of? That was how the issue was solved. So when you hear people saying, somebody else was working for Tinubu, they are the ones working for Tinubu. And look at it. Who was Obi's president campaign manager? It was chosen by Obasanjo, late Doyin Okupe. In fact, it was Doyin Okupe who contacted me to support Obi.
Wow.
And I tweeted about it at that time. And I told him, I said, never in your life should you call me again. So I said, do you not remember what you people did to Abiola? And I never heard from them again. But don't forget, in 2019, when I was running for the first time, Obi himself had called me to support them. And same thing that was my response. I said, so you mean after all these years of exposing Atiku, I will now come and join a corrupt ticket? Because we're discussing this now, a lot of Nigerians have small memory, because that's the reason they don't teach history that deep. You see, most people didn't know that you were expelled from a university. And that was how I heard about you for the first time.
And you were helpful to me back then, yeah.
Do you know, I was checking yesterday that one day I was about to travel. This is the last part before you wrap up.
Yeah.
In the US. And they said somebody was being expelled from Redeemer University.
Okay.
And I wrote on Twitter that this person was expelled from the university because he criticized the vice chancellor. And I was so livid because it reminded me of my own part. Do you know who that person was? Macaroni.
Yeah, Macaroni, yes.
So, and he was recalled back based on that campaign we did. So I'm always happy. Yeah. And this is to wrap up the whole thing about how it is important that even when you don't know people, you can respect their rights.
Seriously, I don't know how some persons will just come out in a public space and just be lying, because it's very obvious that everything Sowore said in that video was a lie. And I think it has started giving me a double mind of Sowore. But I always loved Sowore and supported Sowore. But coming out now to say all these blatant lies about P2B is not giving the kind of Sowore I knew or I know of. Because everything he said in that video was a total lie, like everything. And I'll be glad if P2B can come out and address that issue, because this is a serious issue that needs to be tackled and addressed by P2B himself. Like, he's not even by writing, by come out publicly and defend himself. Because that video that I just watched now, or that you just watched now, an opposite of P2B, because everything he said there was opposite of what P2B have told us and what P2B represents. Because this is a blatant lie. Like, somebody came out public, I don't know if he was paid or he's doing all this to campaign for his own personal interest, political interest. I don't understand, but that video was uncalled for. Everything that video was a total lie. Like I said, I'm saying that is a really total lie, but it would be nice if P2B can come out and handle and tackle that issue, because this is a serious issue. Imagine coming out to tell P2B that everything P2B have showed the world, or have showed the world that is a lie. So that P2B is just busy going around and be posting and boasting about lies, because P2B left Arambra 80s, but till today the EFCC have nothing to show or hold him against, and then somebody's going to say that everything P2B represents is a lie, which doesn't make any sense. But I'm going to review it by the way in the comment section. Please guys, manage video. If I need, you can subscribe to the boy again. Keep on. Stay tuned, guys.